Well, for more on the upcoming summit, we cross to our correspondent in Seoul, Oliver Whitfield-Miocic. Good afternoon to you. Good evening to you, shall I say, Oliver. It's still afternoon here. This is going to be an historic meeting. What is the sense and the feeling there on the ground in Singapore?
Well, in Singapore, the feeling is that the US is now going to play hardball. In the last hour or so, we've heard from the US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and he says that there will be no let-up in sanctions or economic relief until North Korea complies with the complete, verifiable and irreversible denuclearization. Now that is something that is going to be music to the ears of many analysts, and it'll be music to the ears of many people here in Seoul. We had inklings that potentially the US was going to let North Korea have the sanctions lifted a little bit earlier, and in return it would see a phased out manner of this giving up the nuclear weapons. But it now seems that the US is going to play hardball. It says that the V for verifiable is the most important thing, according to US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
What have you heard in terms of what the leader of Korea is saying? Has he said anything before the meeting takes place?
Yes, he has. He held a 40-minute telephone call with Donald Trump this afternoon, and he said to Donald Trump that he wishes him well. He hopes that there's a miraculous outcome from this summit, but also gave the warning that South Korea really does have to be involved in any future negotiations that deals with North Korea, because this country has such a vested interest. The border only lies about 40 kilometers away from where I am now in Seoul. And he also gave the warning that this process could take many years. He said it could take 1 year, it could take 2, potentially even more. That's something that analysts that I've been speaking to have also said. To get complete, verifiable and irreversible dismantlement of those nuclear arms and the weapons testing facilities and the laboratories, it could take up to 15 years. And we have to also think, back when the six-party talks happened, it took 2 years before we saw any sort of concrete sign or any sort of real deal that was put before the nations that were party to those talks. So while there will be great excitement in Singapore, it does have to be tempered with the fact that diplomacy can be a really slow beast at times.
Indeed, a slow beast, but of course there's a lot of anticipation that this will herald a new dawn for North Korea, sanctions will be lifted and so on. But if it will take about 15 years or so, I mean, what will happen in terms of those sanctions? Will there be a step-by-step process where they begin to become more open in terms of the global economy?
Well, what Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was saying was that the US is prepared to come to some sort of new security arrangement and guarantee for North Korea. He didn't elaborate on those comments. He didn't say exactly what type of security arrangement it would be, or indeed how it was different. But he said that a novel approach would be needed because these were different times in which the negotiations were taking place. Now, the US has previously said that no other president has managed to get a sitting North Korean leader around the table with a sitting US president. And the times certainly have changed. The probability is that Donald Trump has to have these talks now because North Korea says its intercontinental ballistic missiles can reach the mainland US. That's probably the reason why those talks are happening right now.
Indeed. Oliver, we're going to leave it there, and we trust you're going to continue covering this story very nicely for us. That was Oliver Whitfield-Miocic reporting from Singapore.